office. It's not like it used to be. We don't have to sit in at every politician's office. Sometimes we just got to tell them, okay, here's what the people want. And they're like, yes, let's do it. Let's do it. I love it. I love it. But let me tell you a few other things. In addition to getting Betsy in, who's been doing such an awesome job, let's talk about this. You know, like about a couple of years ago, these guys were trying to push photo ID on our people. Make it so you need a government-issued identification card to vote. And I'm going to tell you, when this woman named Mary Kiffmeyer just dropped the bill in to have photo ID, they polled and they found 80% of the people thought, you know, yeah, photo ID, that makes sense. I got to use an ID to get on a plane or buy whatever. So, you know, they confused a constitutional right with a commercial transaction. There's like a difference, okay? And a lot of people thought, okay, so we'll do that. But you know what? Some people, Betsy among them, said, you know, we don't care about no 80% poll. We care about right and we care about wrong. And it's wrong to deny someone their constitutional right to have a voice in their government based on a piece of plastic. You show us that people are defrauding and imposturing with us to be other people, we can talk, but until show me that, you don't tell me about no photo ID. And they couldn't, the other side couldn't come up with nobody. Right. Nothing. Well, it could happen. They start talking about roving bands of Latino illegal undocumented. You know they get racist on you fast. They try to exploit our prejudices, which is why we have to get rid of our prejudices.
That's right.
You know, they said these roving bands of Hmong people or whatever, they're voting everywhere. They're going from poll to poll to poll to poll, and they're voting like, okay, so show me like one. Nothing. So instead of worrying about that 80% poll, and I'm going to tell you, some good, solid, progressive Democrats were saying stuff like, Betsy, you can tell them whether I'm right or wrong. They were saying, well, you know, we with you 100%, but we just can't put no money into a campaign because if the polls are too bad, we're going to lose, we can't win it. What's happening? Where's Dan McGrath? I need a witness. Dan, am I right or wrong, Dan?
You are right.
The smart ones, right? These are our folks on our side telling us, oh, maybe we can win it in the courts. I'm like, and we said, courts or no courts, we are fighting this because it's wrong.
That's right.
And we fought it, and we fought it, and we fought it. And the League of Women Voters fought it, my campaign fought it, Take Action fought it, we all fought it. And you know what? As we started pushing the numbers down, a lot of folks who were skeptics said, well, maybe we can. Maybe y'all ain't so dumb after all. We thought we were the smart, poll-oriented focus group types. And we thought you guys were the idealistic dreamers, so you had to be wrong, but you're right. And you started seeing that momentum, and the numbers through the summer just started inching on down. And you know what? By the time August came, it was almost even. September came, it was even. November came, we beat them. Yeah. People, they don't just do one bad thing. They always up to at least 2 or 3 at a time. So they're trying to deny people the right to get married if they love each other just because they're the same sex, right? As if I said, and you know, like I said before, you know, they used to say that if you were black, you couldn't get married to a white person in 16 states in this country. And the Supreme Court never did come back and say we are pushing interracial marriage. They just said marry who you want to marry, and that's all we need to say. Look, a lot of gay people, they don't need your approval. They just need you to get out of their way. So the thing is, you know, we were out there and they put the same kind of thing on the ballot in Minnesota, this anti-marriage thing, and we fought it and we fought it. Now we were moving people from the voting thing quick, because as soon as we said this is going to cost a lot of money, it's not going to help, and there's no voter fraud, they're like, oh, that's dumb, I'm going to vote the other way. But on the marriage thing is a long, hard conversation because it's about religion and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? Slowly, we pushed it down, we inched it down, we shaved it down, but we ended up having a worry, which is that folks were thinking, well, you know, the black community might be kind of conservative on marriage, but they definitely get the voting stuff. Are they going to be able to help? Well, you know what? We said we believe that all people are fair and that people can understand love. And we talked to every element of the community. And you know what? Some of the best numbers we got were in communities of color. And you know what ended up happening? We beat them both. Yeah. And our slogan was, you something nice, vote no twice. And we also went back to state legislature and we raised the taxes on rich folks. We got all-day kindergarten. We froze tuition at public schools. We passed the Minnesota Dream Act, and we're still lagging behind Iowa. You know that. We y'all got it before us, but we ended up passing marriage equality too. And so, and it goes to show that teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah.
We come in together. We get rid of the artificial things that divide us. There's nothing that can stop us. I want to also tell you about Enrique. Enrique's a good friend of mine. He was working with an awesome group called Centro de Trabajadores Unidos en Lucha. Also, we call it Setul, and you guys know Setul because they were working with the Target campaign here. And what they did is they said, I don't work for Target, but work for a contractor of Target. And I'm working for so little pay that I can't even afford to buy the stuff on the shelves around me as I'm cleaning up this place. And this is wrong. And they stood together with other people, and then they confronted Target, and they said, we got to have a real conversation. And they protested, and they marched, and they organized, and they ended up getting Target to agree to a responsible contractor policy, which said that if you are a vendor and you want to do business with Target, you must pay your workers fairly and make sure that they have the right to organize on the job if they want to. But you know what? It's an awesome victory. But by the way, you should know they came down here to organize with you and train with you in Des Moines. And I think the policy might apply here too. I'm not sure, but you know what? It could, right? If we organize around it.
Yeah.
If we organize around it. And I tell you, you get a guy like Enrique who's over here organizing for the right to organize on the job. I worry about these people a lot. The majority of Americans report that they want to be able to join a union if they could. And yet, we're down to single digits in many places. And so, I actually pulled together a piece of legislation which says that if you discriminate against somebody for organizing a union, that it's like discriminating against somebody based on their sex or their race, and they should have a civil rights case. Not just an NLRB case, but a civil rights case. And I'm not against the National Labor Relations Act. It's a good piece of legislation. But people who get fired for organizing a union will tell you that often the relief is late, often the relief is slow, and all you ever get back is your lost money. Now, you might get back wages, but if you had unemployment or a job in between, they minus that out. But with this one, if you got a civil right, you can get punitive damages, you can get discovery, you can drag that company in and put them in a deposition and say, do you have a policy of discriminating against union organizing? I'm telling you, it's what we need to do next, and I hope y'all are with me. I'm gonna drop that bill next week. Now, Minnesota, Iowa, we're kind of progressive up here in the Midwest. We got prairie populism. It doesn't shock us when we do good things for people. But the South, we don't know about them. But let me tell you something cool happening in North Carolina. So there's a guy named Reverend William Barber. William Barber III. Reverend William Barber is president of NAACP in North Carolina, and he started something called Moral Mondays, which is awesome. Last April, after the state legislature refused to expand Medicaid for the poor and slashed unemployment insurance and started making it harder to vote, they didn't cry, they organized. They didn't mourn, they got together. And on a Saturday in February, more than 80,000 protesters turned up in what might be the largest civil rights rally in the South since Selma. Now, I'm telling you, here's the good thing about it. In Selma, in Selma back in '65, you probably had 95% of the people marching were probably African American. You had some whites there too, but mostly black. This march was probably 55% white. Why is that important? Because they tell us in the South that we can't work together. This is a lie. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. People in the South know that they need some Medicaid, they need some health care. They need to be able to vote, and they sure need some unemployment insurance if they lose their job, and it does not matter what skin you're in. What matters is you ain't got no money, and you need something. So people came together and they fought. And this really was a heartwarming thing to me, because if those of you who have loved ones or friends or used to live in the South, you know how divisive this issue can be. Am I right or wrong? I don't know the truth. So people coming together like that is a big deal because it means that the racists cannot say, okay, we'll help you, but we're not going to help them. You know that so much of this racial coding and this divisive stuff is all about divide and conquer. And we've got to confront it, and we've got to fight it. And so these folks who were there, who were they there? They were union members, they were sorority sisters, they were LGBT activists, they were small business owners. Because the small business owners like, where's my bailout? I ain't got no bailout. You're helping big guys, not people like me. Women's rights activists, you had imams, you know, you had rabbis, you had preachers, and they all spoke. And there was one person who had a sign that said, I stand with so many groups here, I couldn't just pick one, so he put them all on the sign. Now, you know, like this, I want to tell you about this young lady named LaQuasia LeGrand, African-American young woman in New York City. If you heard her talk, you would know she was from the Bronx. There ain't no way to get around. She worked at different KFCs because she couldn't get enough hours to make a living. And she had to work one KFC job, get on the train an hour, and go work at her other one. And she said, you know what, I'm about had it with this. This is wrong. I need to get paid. I'm making $7.25 an hour, and I can't go good. So here's this young woman who's 22 years old, young, never even really voted in her life, got activated, got sparked up, and decided to do something, joined with her fellow fast food workers to say, we want $15 in a union. Now, how awesome is that? And guess what? The last strike they had, last December, the fast food strikers went on strike in over 130 cities. And May 15th, just about a little more than a month ago, 158 cities saw fast food strikes from Milwaukee to Miami and all over this country. Even the work people work for federal contractors, man, they're striking. These fast food workers are striking over there at the Air and Space Museum in Washington. They're striking at the Smithsonian. You know, in DC, I work in DC all the time, and you always see, you know, tourists come there to see the great monuments of our country. And they're so proud to see the Capitol, Lincoln Memorial, Smithsonian. Maybe some of them never even been to DC before. And so they're there, and you know, these folks don't know that the people serving them in these federal buildings are making starvation wages. And so these folks said, you know, we're going to do something about it. Man, they struck at the Pentagon. Yeah. They said, we ain't going to work with it. And so you know that this is happening because these people are not working for the federal government. They work for contractors who have contracts with the federal government. So over a year ago, way over a year ago, we started harassing the president about issuing an executive order saying that, you know, you have got to raise the pay of people who work for federal contractors. And just like Lyndon Baines Johnson back in the 60s said, you cannot have a contract with the federal government if you discriminate, we said, Obama, you need to say the same thing about this pay thing. And just like Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, you cannot have a contract with the federal government unless you allow people to organize on the job, we asked Obama to say, raise the pay of these federal workers. So Obama, after a lot of harassment, it got to the point where every time I saw Obama, and I see him about once a month, I'd hand him a letter saying, raise the pay of your federal contract workers. He's like, okay, last time he said, okay, I got it, I got 5 of them, what do you want? So one night, I got a call from the White House, and they say, you're gonna be happy about this. The president's gonna issue the executive order. And he did. And hardworking people all over this country. Because I want you to know that just like, you know, corn shoots popping out of the ground in Iowa, man. You see them, you know, people are saying no to this madness all over. People are organizing, they're coming together, they're doing what they have to do. And this fight is about as intense as you can get when it comes to immigration reform. You know, there's a guy who I want you to know about named Eliseo Medina. He grew up in Delano, California. Some of you may know Delano, California because that's what Cesar Chavez grew up and organized with the farm workers. You know, and this guy Eliseo Medina was easing up on about 70 years old. Don't tell me you can't be active until 90, 100. Why stop? Why stop? Right? Eliseo, he's kind of like, think of him as like the anti-Steve King. Steve King's way over here. Ellison, wait a minute. So anyway, Ellison, at the age of 19, got busy with the farm workers, and he's done enough to help working people to fill volumes, but he's not done because even though he's about 70 plus, Ellison focused on moral attention on the plight of the 11 million undocumented workers in the United States by fasting for families for over 22 days. He fasted for 22 days out in front of the Capitol Dome to bring attention and to shame John Boehner for not bringing up an immigration bill. And I just want to let y'all know that an undocumented worker is an exploited worker. That's why they're here, right? They don't want to be, some of these people, some of the most vicious, vehement, anti-immigrant people are people who exploit immigrant undocumented labor. And they want to create a situation, they like the system how it is. They want to be able to say, y'all work for me for nothing, talk about wage stuff. And then, if you complain about it, if you tell on me to Department of Ag or whoever you want to tell me at, I'm going to just call ICE in and raid you and throw you out. And then get a whole bunch more in. So don't ever be confused. I know you're not, but tell your loved ones and your friends, don't go after the people. It's not them doing anything to you. It's these exploiters over here, and we got to do something about it. So, now because of our bad international investment policy, I don't want to call it trade policy, it's not really trade policy. We're not talking about how to trade goods between nations. We're talking about investors having agreements between themselves on how they can maximize money. If we had good trade policy, we'd stop the race at the bottom and insist on good trade policy all over the world. And raise standards. These deals allow you to basically take American corn, dump it in Mexico, and then run them guys out of business. And what do? They come here. That's what happens. And so 1,100 people a day getting deported nowadays. And even now we got kids on our border. We need an immigration reform policy that makes it so that we can deal humanely with people. That makes it so that we can have a policy where people don't have to leave everything they know just to come here. And that means we got to address our trade policy, and we also got to address this war on drugs that we're funding down in Latin America too, which is causing so much hell. So let me wrap up by saying this. We are in a movement moment. We must seize the moment that we're in. Whether you're a black Baptist preacher like William Barber, or whether you're a white Catholic nun like Sister Simone Campbell, or these beloved sisters we have here with us today. Y'all know who Simone Campbell is? The nuns on the bus? Yeah. The nuns on the bus said, you know what, Mr. Paul Ryan, we believe we know a little bit more about Catholic social teaching than you do. And it's not about cutting food stamps and throwing poor people out. It's about nurturing people and lifting up the human spirit. Right? And so they got on the bus because they believe so thoroughly in what they're doing, and they're heroes in my eyes. Or whether or not you're, who is a 70-year-old guy or a crazy grand who's 22, I want you to think of the moment that we're in like a fruit tree, just like a fruit tree. Those branches are getting heavy with the fruit. They got to be picked, or they're going to fall on the ground. And that's going to be cynicism, that's going to be negativity, that's going to be working people turning on each other and not to each other. We've got to harvest it now. And this is not the time for timidity, and this is not the time for disunity. This is the time to cling to each other so that we can change this nation for a generation. This is the time for liberty and justice for all, and for a high wage, good job, good quality of life based on equality and inclusion. That's the moment that we're in. That's the moment we must seize. And so thank you for having me here, and thank you for the hard work you do.